Hello guys, and a big welcome to my second commentary video. This time around I'll be reviewing Exiled from the Sky Part 2. I previously did Part 1 in another video. If you're interested, check that one out. This one is substantially longer than the other one. It's about an hour long, so if you're interested in watching it to the end, I'd appreciate that. Again, I'll be discussing how I made essentially the level and amongst other things, you know, inspiration. Yeah, so I'm excited to do this video. I really hope you enjoy it, actually. I really enjoyed making this one. I consider this one probably the best achievement that I ever accomplished in LittleBigPlanet. I was awarded a second pick for this, so yeah, anyway, without any further introduction, here we go. So here we have the start menu for Exiled Part 2. I mentioned this in Part 1, but this gave me quite a headache when I was making it at the time. I don't know why, but the thermometer just kept filling up really fast. I think it was probably something to do with the backstory. I had to use emitters to kind of emit particular scenes from the first game and then put some, basically subtitles. To explain what happened in the previous game. I'll show you that in a moment. But yeah, in this one I decided to make sort of a menu instead of just jumping right in with exposition like the last game. I wanted it to I essentially wanted something quite sort of neat, crisp and tidy, but also, as I mentioned before in the previous commentary video, I wanted to start where the last game ended. So here we have the secret temple in all its glory. So this is what it looked like fully zoomed out, and yeah, there you can see the replay option. So that was essentially just a level linked to the first level. I thought it'd be a nice little addition to the game, so people that hadn't played it previously could hop on that one and have a go. Yeah, here's where the flashback starts for the first game. This time around I wanted to add like a lot of neat little extras, so I don't know if anybody quite caught that in the menu, but every time you switch through the options, the music changes, and on the option where you can play the first game, I actually have the track for the first Exiled game. I thought that was a nice little touch, and this particular piece of music, Reminiscence, this one I was actually just messing about with some music at the time, trying to create something for one of the sections in the level for Part 2 actually, and I did actually use it. You'll hear that upcoming in one of the sections. I think it's when you finally get out of the temple. But yeah, with the name Reminiscence, I thought it fit absolutely perfectly for this sort of flashback sequence of events. But yeah, the main theme for Exiled Part 2 as well, that was an interesting little story. I sat there for a while messing around with the choir instrument, and I just started stringing a few things together, and I was actually somewhat inspired by The Last of Us, actually, for a little bit of the music this time around. And of course, you know, inspiration from the other games that I mentioned previously in the other commentary video. Big, huge inspiration from Shadow of the Colossus and Ico in this game. You'll notice that with the architecture and just the way that nature's kind of reclaimed all of the architecture in the game. That was sort of a huge point to the game this time around. I really wanted to sell the idea that this was really ancient, this land. You know, essentially, once humans evolved, they left, and that was that. It was just kind of abandoned to time, and it's kind of implied that you're essentially the first in a long time to sort of step foot here and explore the land as you see it. Obviously the humans left remnants of how their world operated before, with these words of power, these sigils. Essentially, they based their whole civilization once they found the technology. Because I do mention that in the you'll see that upcoming in the game, that essentially there was some kind of alien civilization that crash landed on the planet, and the humans essentially reverse engineered the technology that they found and used it for their own civilization. I just thought it was a really interesting concept. I know that it's been sort of done in sci-fi over and over again, but I've always been fascinated with that idea that what people perceive as aliens could possibly be sort of humans from the future. I was trying to tap into that idea, but this is sort of an origin story for the cradle of humanity. They come back. They've got this calling to come back, but they don't really understand why. It's they've been sort of sent on this mission, and as you'll see upcoming, that there is actually a bunch of other UFOs that have come back. So they've been sent on this mission before, and essentially it's kind of a bit of a hero's journey. You're the chosen one. You're the one that sort of makes it, because it wouldn't be very fun if you only got to the start and immediately failed. But so here we have quite a bit of the backstory from the previous game. You will notice that there's a couple of little discrepancies, i.e. It mentions that Verkra had roamed the land for thousands of years. Now, I did kind of leave that a bit ambiguous. Perhaps Verkra had been roaming the land for 1,000 years, perhaps not. The crash right at the start of the game implies that he'd only just got there. But it's I kind of toyed with that idea that Verkra had, been sent for the same mission that all of the others had before, and was just sort of like another casualty, and sort of ended up stranded on the planet with essentially memory loss, which is kind of funny, really, because he doesn't really have a head to kind of sort of like knock himself out and lose his memory. But I like the idea of sort of the race understands that there's something to be claimed on this planet that still has value and worth. But as the story unfolds, you kind of realise that they were indeed sent there for a purpose, and it was to essentially free them from the bondage that a certain entity holds over them. But as the game goes on, we'll get to that. But yeah, we're coming up to the end here of the flashback for part 1. I just thought it was a really nice little nod to the original one, and a nice touch for people that already had played the game but wanted a bit of a recap. I toyed with the idea. I wasn't actually going to put it in the level originally. Again, I had issues with the thermometer and the heat. For some reason, it just kept creeping up and up and up, and I really wanted this particular shot here, along with the music. I just thought it fit so nicely, and I was willing to sacrifice certain things to get this shot. But luckily, I found a way to make it work in the end, and the rest is history. It kind of fit together really nicely, and so here we go. Just going back to Verkra's origins for a moment. The idea was really that the mothership UFO kind of sent down an empty vessel to Earth. Verkra, it's implied that essentially that they've been kind of just exploring the land aimlessly, not really having any idea what they were doing there, thinking that they've been sent on some kind of mission, but not really. They didn't really know themselves. So yeah, the craft was basically sent for them, but they mistakenly thought it was another entity. So here we are in the entranceway to the secret temple, and you'll notice straight away that Verkra doesn't speak this time around. You're essentially silent protagonist, and the disembodied voice will be the guide through this game this time around. And, yeah, it's that was definitely a creative choice. I didn't like the idea of every time Verkra spoke, you kind of had to stop and listen. This time around, I wanted you to have as much control as possible. I wanted the player to have as much control over the story as possible. Yes, it is a linear story. Yes, there is still cutscenes and exposition, but this time around, I didn't want it to be Verkra constantly bumping into things, being surprised. They were completely fresh to this area. They'd never stepped foot here before, or flew here before. I consider this room the tutorial room for the game. You can see there the PlayStation controller. Now, the idea was that I wanted that the disembodied voice to explain that the backstory for their civilization, their race. The UFO had crashed there a long time ago, and the humans at the time made an idol out of what was left, and the control panel for the original UFO is supposed to be the PlayStation controller. So I just thought it was a really nice way to tie it in and make sense, because obviously the players are going to be controlling the game through the PlayStation controller. I needed to find a way to have a tutorial that was interactive, made sense. I just thought it was a really nice touch. Now you'll notice a moment ago it panned down to a bunch of other UFOs that had, essentially they were crashed there. They'd been sent on the mission previously before. Now that's where you kind of get your first clue that you're not the first, and you're not the only one to attempt this mission before. Now, for whatever reason, all of the others didn't get very far, so you quickly realise that this is turning into a rescue mission. So here we get our first little bit of instruction from the disembodied voice on how you can control your ship. Now, this here was a game changer. This was the biggest change to the control system from the first one. In the first game, basically how it worked was the UFO had a tag system on it, and you would approach an area, and the game would give you an audio cue on when is the right time to use your weaponry, the lightning strike. Now, I wanted to get rid of that. I realised that it just wasn't fun. It's so much more fun when you've got control. So I built this whole system. I'll probably do a behind the scenes video at some point on how I built that system, but it's more complex than it looks. But you'll notice that you can go in and out of layers with it, and you can aim anywhere. And I just thought that was a really fun addition to the game. It opened up the controls so much more. Even if you're not actually particularly firing at anything, to interact with it, sometimes it's just fun to fly around firing off the laser. It's it was mainly for to give the player control and interactivity. And you'll notice here that you have to move in and out of the layers to hit those crystals that just come up on those pillars there. And it's just a nice little neat way of making the tutorial fun. So I did have a few people comment on it, saying that the beginning was a bit slow, and yeah, I suppose it is, but at least this time around, the story, you're getting quite a lot of information thrown your way. There's this mysterious voice that you don't know who it is or why they're talking to you even, or how is it that there's somebody else here when you've not seen any life up until this point. So I wanted it to all tie together this time around in a really fun, interactive way, and this, to me, this was one of the best ways to teach people how to use it. You'll notice upcoming here that you can click the left stick inwards, and that will actually switch between electricity and fire. The last time around there wasn't anything like that. It was on two separate buttons, but this time I wanted the fire to work exactly the same way as the electricity. You've got the holographic vector. It works the same way for both. Now, the way that the vector works, it's on a tag system, but the center of the vector is where the tag is. So everything that you interact with, when you click and hold the R1 button, it activates the tag. It's switched off on a microchip. But whether it's they basically work the same way. But with the fire, you click and hold the button. With the electricity, you press it once, and it's like an instant. It's an instant reaction, whereas the fire, it's usually like a timed build up. So, just like in real life, how if you held a lighter to something to set it on fire, you'd have to hold it for a few seconds. That was the idea. So now that we've got through the segment teaching you how to use the electricity and the fire, you move on to the mystery of the third glyph in the game. Now, you'll notice that there's little sort of motifs in the forms of flags, and that's a consistent thing throughout the game this time around. It's the idea was to represent the importance of the symbol. The humans, before they became a space civilization, they considered this particular symbol of the highest of importance. So yeah, that's it's just a bit of sort of storytelling again. Like you'll notice it throughout the whole level that there's constant references to the third symbol. So yeah, that little segment there, that's actually quite important. That's implying that it's to be used for a higher purpose, but we haven't unlocked that ability yet. So it's this particular scene and room is quite important. You've got a lot of story building. You've got the new controls in your craft, and you've also got the start of the journey here. You've been given all the tools to succeed in the mission to come. So yeah, now we're about to exit the secret temple and move on to the next segment. So this shot here is the first nod to the comment I made in the first game, the commentary of the first game, how I really wanted every scene to look like it was sent from a postcard. It was one of those big sort of wow factor scenes, like you're open, unleashed into the world again, but this time around it's big. There's this it's a secret world that nobody has stepped foot here. It's just completely abandoned to time, and I just really wanted a big, impactful area that you think to yourself, wow, this is I've never seen anything like this on LittleBigPlanet before. But yeah, that's a constant theme throughout the second game. I really wanted to go all in this time. That portal there, that will be quite important later on in the game, but I don't really touch too much on it at this stage in the game. This little scene here, this was an interesting little area. I decided to have a little callback to the forest from part 1, and here's, I think I named this area First Contact. You'll see why in a moment, but I just really wanted to capture the beauty of the forest this time around, and I worked really hard to improve how the forest looked. For those of you with a keen eye, you'll notice that there's a little windmill there. That was a little callback to Ico. I really wanted like a little nod to some of my favourite games, and believe it or not, this background here and this bridge was actually inspired from Abe's Odyssey, one of my absolute all-time favourite games. When I was first introduced to the PlayStation 1, I think my dad had it on demo disc, and Oh, I played that thing until I burnt the disc out. It was just, it's kind of like a nice little nod to that. Here we have our first encounter. This is why the level's called First Contact. So it's essentially an enemy UFO. Now, at this point in the game, you don't really understand why another UFO is attacking you. So again, as the story progresses, it's explained after you defeat them, but it's not exactly explained, but it's kind of implied that they're not really themselves. So you can see that yes, in fact, other UFOs did make it into these areas further along in the game. You're definitely not the first here, and you'll hopefully be the last. But yeah, this particular fight was fun. It was the enemy UFO that was actually up in the sky all along. It was just waiting for the right moment to activate when you burnt those braziers. But yeah, it's you can see how I really focused on the interactivity this time. You light those braziers, but you don't even know why, and it was to start the encounter. Now this little part here, you can see that that little orb that flew out of the enemy UFO kind of looks a bit like Verkra, but Verkra's purple. Verkra's a different colour. Now, the idea for the soul actually came from another game that came from Soul Reaver. Again, another one of my all-time favourite PlayStation 1 games, but yeah, I kind of had a lot of inspiration from other games, but I just thought it'd be an interesting idea, okay, what's happening here then? So you've got an enemy UFO, you've just defeated it, and you've just absorbed the soul of this corrupted enemy. How did they become corrupted? Again, another bit of mystery. Now that little clearing area there, I was actually going to have what I call a soul trap. So instead of the boss battle there, it was actually going to activate a little bit of I suppose you'd say, like mechanism, machinery thing, and it had like I'll put it in a behind the scenes clip eventually, but because I still have the object, but yeah, essentially there was a bunch of corrupt souls inside there that you have to rescue. But instead, I decided on a little sort of mini boss battle, and I couldn't really fit it in anyway. The heat was at the absolute maximum in that level, in that segment. So here we have the entrance to another room now, another temple. I like the idea of having sort of essentially trials that you have to go through. Now, this one, the voice mentions that you need wisdom to pass through this area. So, you've kind of got an idea that we're going to be encountering some puzzles in this room. This particular level, this one took the longest to build. This is the first segment, and then afterwards you've got when you make it through this room, you've got another segment, and this is the most puzzle-heavy area in the game. After this point, there's not really so much, anything in the way of puzzles. So I kind of wanted the theme around this particular segment of the game to be the puzzles and where you have to use your brain. Now, you'll notice that you fly over there to sort of activate the urns. Now, I did have one criticism when I released the game the first time around, LittleBigPlanet 3, and people kept getting confused. They said that they were using the fire on the urns, but it wasn't activating. Now, if I had my time again, and if I could go back and unfortunately the servers shut down, but if I could have my time again, I'd update it so that you actually do have some kind of sound indicator or visual indicator that the vector is hovering over the right area and where to light it, because some people had a bit of trouble lining it up as well. So I wish I'd have kind of, I don't know, put like maybe a little timer or something so you can see that it's counting up and you are in fact lighting the fire. But I think I set it to about 3 seconds on an invisible timer. So yeah, if I could have my time again, I'd update that to make it look a little bit easier. So here we have the first little puzzle. This was actually supposed to be for the first game, but as I mentioned in that one, I had quite a few time constraints, so I ended up sort of making a really simplified version in the first game. And this would have been when you got to the cavern in the first game and unlocked the second sigil. Now, I mentioned about the level before that there was I was going to have something called the soul trap. This ended up becoming the soul trap. If you look closely, you can see a little lock in the middle of the stone rings, and of course you've got all of the other symbols, but the 3 main ones are the the ones for fire, electricity, and the mystery symbol. So you line those up, and it actually it doesn't unlock the soul trap. It moves on to the next segment of the puzzle. Yeah, I do quite like that it's a 2-part puzzle. Some people did get confused with it at the time, and I'm not sure in this playthrough if I hung around long enough to for people to be able to read the tips. But it's another one of those moments in sort of storytelling and gaming where you've got to find that balance. Like, you don't want to hold people's hand too much, but at the same time, inevitably you're going to get people that they get a little bit confused on what you're supposed to do. So you can see here that I'm giving exposition, but I'm also trying to use the cameras to really sort of hone in on where you've got to go and what you've got to do. But yeah, here's a little tip here, because I did have a few sort of play testers at the time, and they got a little bit confused on what you're supposed to do. So in the end, I decided to give people a tip. Yeah, the idea here was that you actually use sound to break the lock in the middle of the stone rings. And, yeah, this became the soul trap. So yeah, it's a little bit of a callback to the tutorial room. That the bulk of the souls, the corrupt souls, should I say, for the UFOs in that room were actually stored here for an unknown purpose. They were either trapped here or stored here. Essentially, you've freed those souls now. You've absorbed them within yourself, and yeah, it's unlocked the door for the to exit the temple and move on to the next area now. But yeah, I just thought it was a neat little concept, putting all of this together and having a 2-part puzzle in one. And of course, the second part was timed. So the first part of the puzzle was all about timing, stopping the rings at the correct time, and the second part was you're literally on a timer to sort of get it right. So here we are, exiting the last temple, and I just really love the look of this area. This you can see that it's absolutely wrecked to time. Nature's taken it over. There's exposed beams. I really wanted to kind of create the idea of almost like the look of a lost kingdom. All of this technology that the humans had, as soon as they got to the point where they could become space bearing, it essentially became useless to them. But it's I like the idea of no matter how advanced you get, everything still has a use. And here we are, the protagonist Verka coming back to the planet, and having to interact with all of these things to progress. I really like that drawbridge. It's funny actually. When I made this, and I wanted the drawbridge to essentially block you from being able to progress, I realised that actually you were trapped down there when you go to light the other brazier. So I needed to find a way to sort of have the player naturally progress. But then I thought, I know, I'll add a little. I'll add a little surprise there, and the drawbridge actually gets destroyed, and it's kind of, it implies that you're not alone here. You're being watched, not only by the voice that's guiding you, but potentially something else. So this little area, this clock tower, I actually ripped this directly from Uncharted 4. What was it? Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, I think it was called. I remember that part in the game where you have to move around. You're playing as Nathan Drake, and you have to move around and sort of get the clock tower working again. And I really like the idea of that. And you'll notice in a moment the camera will pan over to these bells, and the bells were actually a puzzle that I intended for a different part of the game, but due to heat, I just couldn't fit it in. So I really liked the bells. The way that I'd animated them, the way that they looked and sounded. I just had to fit them in the game somewhere. So I decided to see if I could squeeze it into this segment of the level, and with a little bit of sort of manipulation on materials and what was in the level itself, I managed to find a way to squeeze as much out of the thermometer as I possibly could. So right at the start of this segment, when you fly through the temple with the stone rings, when the camera fades to black, there's actually a bit of trickery that goes on there. All of that stuff kind of gets deleted, just like a real game would work. How it renders certain things out and then it pops in and out to maximize the performance and whatnot. And at the time of building this, it was on the PS4 Pro. Now, I transferred all of my data over to the PS5. I'm actually recording this on the PS5, so it's it's smooth as you like. But on the PS4, there was even with the power of the PS4, there was a lot of lag issues, and one way that I masked that was the fade to black. And I think the original 2 videos that I put up of Exiled Part 1 and 2 on the channel, if you watch it carefully, you'll see some of those moments where it does lag. So what I decided was, it was kind of a bit of a necessary evil to have the first part of the whatever whatever level you enter to lag a bit more than the second part. You'll notice that the second part always plays a lot smoother than the first, because it was just too big to put in some kind of like emitter or and have it spawn in. So this part here was always there. It's just that the previous part of the level gets deleted, and so this part can play really smoothly. So you can see here that we've actually just completed the bell puzzle. But yeah, it's definitely one of my favourite little segments in the game. This is, I love the way that it looks, and there was a little bit of trickery here and there when the camera goes inside and the camera goes outside. I had the global lighting tool kind of was going mad. It was flicking between light and dark. So and also when you fly in there's another sensor that flicks between sort of light and dark. You're quick enough, you can just notice it. But I tried my best to mask it, and I just kind of thought I'd give a little visual there of the clock tower in all of its glory. I spent a long time building it, so I thought people can look at it. So next we move on to the section I call Crossing the Courtyard. Now, interestingly, this was the first part that I built for Exiled Part 2. When I got the team pick for the first one, I didn't make Part 2 until something like 3 years later, maybe even 4 years later. I didn't originally intend on making a Part 2. I was going to continue the series on In Dreams, but this was the first part of the level that I actually made, and the more I made, the more inspired I got. And this particular level pushes the thermometer to the absolute max. I really wanted the again, that wow factor and how big the scenery is. It required a lot of heat, and of course I do that bit of trickery for when you do actually get past this section. Excuse me. There's another part, and on the PS4 you can notice it's actually not too bad, the frame rate, but obviously playing on the PS5 it's as smooth as you like. But yeah, so here there's a monolith in your way, and it reads that appropriate sacrifice is needed, and here's where you see what destroyed the bridge earlier, and 3 sort of enemy UFOs that you have to defeat, and you can see currently that they're actually, they're absolutely destroying me. I've never actually successfully played this little area without getting knocked down. I did have one criticism. There was a chap that did a review on my level on YouTube somewhere. I can't remember his name off the top of my head now, but he did actually mention that there is no actual true way of dying in the game. Now, because of the way that I built the game, it's essentially 7 levels linked together. Instead of probably doing the sensible thing and making an adventure, which I never actually did get round to doing in LittleBigPlanet, I used the level link system instead. Now, if I'd have done a way to actually die, and permanently die, up until this point, sort of people have been playing for about, I don't know, maybe half an hour or whatever it is, and I just thought that if I do introduce an actual death system within the game, people might not play the rest. So I kind of compromised there and made a knockout system. So essentially, when you have enemy UFOs firing at you, I think it takes about 15 to 20 shots to actually take you down, and you'll hear like a little. You'll hear like there's like a noise to indicate that you've been knocked down, and obviously you fall down and roll around and whatnot. But then you get like a heartbeat as the life in the craft is restored. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that for anybody wondering. But yeah, you can see a few little bits in the background. Originally, I did want those to be interactive, like the pulley systems. I was going to sort of, I don't know, have like an urn that you had to burn, and it raised it up, and then you get a crystal on there. But as I was making the game, I just decided against it in the end. I had other ideas, and yeah, here's where you get your first little clue that the souls are they do have a higher purpose. Obviously, they are part of the original UFOs that you see in the intro to the game, but they also have purpose. And yeah, this was another little creative choice that I wanted. The idea basically being that once souls are purified, they have somewhere to go. And yeah, it's just a nice little way to keep the story flowing along. But yeah, this particular piece of music, I also called this Crossing the Courtyard. It's my favourite piece of music in the game. It was it was another piece of music, like most of the music that I make, it kind of came about by accident. I was messing around with a couple of other tracks that I'd made for the game and put a few bits together, and then sometimes when you're making a song, you can just hear a melody come together, and you just go with that. And yeah, the more you tinker around with it, sometimes the inspiration just comes. And I was just messing about here. I wanted to show that no, you cannot fly over the Great Wall. You have to follow the path. But yeah, when it fades to black here, again, that little trickery of all of the previous scene gets deleted to make way for this upcoming scene. So this scene here, probably the most visually striking in the game. It's not anything of grandeur, but just the look of it itself. This is where we finally learn about the portals within the game that have been referenced and their importance to the game. And this was kind of, I kind of pulled this straight out of Zelda. You know, the idea that you can have like a portal room, but I kind of called it the room of, I can't remember what I called it now, probably the room of time or something like that. And again, I didn't want it to just be a cutscene. I wanted you to, the player, to interact and start the portal after a long slumber. And we have the classic music that I used at the end of the first game, the Secret Temple. I just thought it fit this particular scene perfectly. You know, it's really is that kind of piece of music that says we're onto something here. We, you know, something big is about to happen. You know, you know, it's kind of like it's go time now. This is where the story gets serious. Now this next little scene, I was inspired again by my good friend Hanflo Hotplop. He in his series Avalor, he did a portal as well that was basically the same as this. Kind of used his idea to inspire my level here, but I just thought it was a really cool visual, and yeah, squeezed every last little drop of heat out of the thermometer at the time to fit this in, and I'm glad that I did, because it just looks pretty visually striking, and yeah, just really happy with how it looks. So here we have where the portal leads to. I'm quite proud of this area actually. I really wanted to do a bit more with this whole area here, but due to the well, you'll see in a moment why I kind of ran out of space on the thermometer. But originally I did have another puzzle in this area to enter the upcoming temple. We'll see that in just a moment. You can just see on the edge of the screen there some weird kind of cog system with some bolts. Now, originally I had like another system similar to the vector system with it almost looked like a crystal light, and the symbols would appear again on the face of the bolts there, and you had to twist them round and line them up, and I was going to have one either side of those two pillars, but I ran out of space, and in the end I just decided to leave it as a remnant to lost technology. Just thought it added to the mystery. This particular scene here is absolutely massive, and the PS4 Pro can't really handle it. I'll be realistic. And PS5, it's, you know, it's beautiful, just how smooth it is, but absolutely visually stunning, that scene. So here we have the big reveal. This took quite a long time to build, and this is what took up most of the heat in this level. Probably one of my greatest achievements in LittleBigPlanet is this particular segment of the game. This is where we find out where the disembodied voice was actually coming from. It was essentially leading you to a boss battle that was, you know, guiding you all this time. It wanted you to rescue the souls so that it could take them for itself. It's I named it the Soul Guardian, and yeah, if you look quite closely, I animated him quite well. You can see him breathing there, his chest going up and down. That took a long time to animate, but yeah, I decided early on in the making of Exiled Part 2 that I really wanted a boss fight. I wasn't going to do it, and then I thought, you know what, I've got to. If I'm going to go all out on this game, I'm going to go out with a bang. And I don't know how at the time, I just knew that this would probably be my last published LittleBigPlanet level. You know, there was things going on at the time with people sort of hacking into the game, and I just had a sneaky feeling that they'd probably close the game down at some point. So it really pushed me forwards to finish this particular level, and boss itself. It probably took me the better part of a week in total to design and make, animate. Really fun, really good fun. But yeah, the idea essentially is that the Soul Guardian has been misleading you this whole time. Yes, he's guided you through the land, and kind of give you the ability to have more control over your powers that you've gained so far. But it was only to serve his own ends, his own purpose. Essentially, I didn't really get a chance too much to explain it in the narrative, but the idea was that the humans understood that corruption could be possible within this world because of the technology that they discovered, and they kind of built the Soul Guardian to essentially ward off any would-be corruption. But in turn, the Soul Guardian itself became corrupted and decided that it was essentially going to send out a beacon into space to get the humans to come back, and it would feed off of the souls of the corrupted that eventually fell. So it's kind of implied that the UFOs that didn't make it with enough time, and them being inactive within the world, eventually they became corrupted too. And as I mentioned in the first game, that Verkra is essentially what humanity becomes. They've turned into a spiritual being of energy rather than an entity that needs a body, and the Soul Guardian feeds off of those souls. And you can see there, when I was making this playthrough, I kind of tried to make it obvious. Some people missed it actually the first time around, but this is the second segment of the fight, and you got the Soul Guardian kind of going a bit crazy there, pounding on the floor. But you can see when he opens his mouth that he is actually absorbing the souls out of the player. You can see that there. So yeah, and again on his forehead you can see the third glyph. Now, of course, as you're fighting, the Soul Guardian is kind of trying to discourage you from continuing on with your mission, telling you that it's useless and there is no third glyph. You've got no chance, basically. But of course, we don't listen to that. We're here to do a job, and we're not going to let them stamp away. But yeah, technically putting this fight together, it's not actually as difficult as it might seem at first. It was fairly simple animation. It just took a long time to get all the parts moving, and as I mentioned before in the last game, you've kind of got to take into consideration everything that's relative to where the UFO is itself. So first of all, I need to trap the UFO in the room so people can't just sort of basically break the game and just fly out of the area. So either side of the entranceways there's actually two invisible pieces of card that I spawned in. You can't see them, obviously, they're invisible, but I needed a way to physically block the player into the room, and you have to do that quite a lot with games to stop people from progressing before you want them to. You want them to complete the task. So here you can see that we've actually just defeated the boss, and all of the souls that he's just been absorbing from you in that fight, you've reabsorbed, you've took them back. But yeah, in terms of a boss fight, I was really happy with how this turned out in the end. It was a massive undertaking, but I needed to do it. I needed something really, I couldn't have this whole build up without a massive payoff. So I really pushed myself to make that boss fight, and I'm glad that I decided to do it in the end. Here we have a little call back to the start of the game. You finally realise what the portal for the intro was for. It did actually mention right at the start that it can only be used one way, and again, a little bit of subtle storytelling, but that particular portal flashed green there, so it's kind of implied that you needed the corrupt souls to be able to get back here. Again, I ran out of space on the thermometer, but I did want to have another scene where you enter another portal, a bit like how the crossing the courtyard scene ended. But again, due to time and space, I just ran out of space on the thermometer. So here we are back in the tutorial room at the start of the game, and you've just released all of the corrupt souls into the machine that we have no idea what its purpose was for at the beginning of the game. So we finally find out what the third glyph represents. Essentially it represents the soul of humanity, and you know, they understood that with this technology that they'd gained, that corruption could be a possibility, so all of these things were put in place as a failsafe. Of course, at the beginning of the game you didn't have any souls to cleanse, and now that we do, the machine can be used to its full effect. So although the humans worshipped the idol, they understood that the you know, the power that they were dealing with, they didn't fully understand. So this particular scene here, I really like this. This is you know, you bring all of the your brethren back to life. They've got their souls back and they can finally return to the sky. This piece of music is actually called Return to the Sky. You know, the polar opposite of Exiled from the Sky. So the idea is that you've fulfilled your mission and you finally get to go home. I just thought it was a really nice way to end it. And yeah, my original idea actually was it was a bit different. Instead of the Soul Guardian, I was going to have the UFO enter that area, and there was going to be some kind of conversion machine that so in the tutorial area, that ended up being the machine that converts the souls from being corrupted into purified. And what I was going to actually have is, when you activate that machine, the mothership UFO then crashes through the roof and ends up being the boss fight, essentially. But I changed all of that in the end. I decided I was actually going to have a lot more of a dramatic ending. The start of the fight was going to be in that room, and then the mothership kind of absorbs you after the first segment of the fight finishes, and then you end up the scene ends and you end up flying through space, and you have to fight the mothership UFO in space. And I thought that would be quite a fun way to end it, because the way that the game would have finished is that Verkra decides to sacrifice themselves and crash into the mothership and sort of, you know, rip the ship wide open and destroy it completely and free all of the souls that the mothership absorbed. And you know, of course, in the process, Verkra also is destroyed. And so it was kind of like the idea was to have like a really bittersweet ending, because after that happens, the souls kind of trickle their way back down to the planet, and you go back to the start room, the tutorial room, sorry, and yeah, essentially the same scene happens. You get the other UFOs that they're finally free. They get to ascend back to the stars, return to the sky. I did actually make a couple of concepts for it. I don't know, it would have been a really cool scene, I think, but I didn't like, ultimately I didn't like the idea of, after all of this time and all the sacrifices that Verkra had made, and, you know, all that they'd been through, I didn't like the idea of them not getting their happy ending and them not getting their chance to go home. So eventually it was just, I just decided I didn't want to do that. Maybe in another time, but yeah, it just didn't materialize. And here we have the credit scene of a few people that helped playtest the game for me. My sister was mentioned in there, along with a couple of my friends. And this ending piece of music was made by my good friend Cyberpunk. Yeah, I'm really appreciative of him for creating that for me. But yeah, that's pretty much the review. Well, there we have it, guys. We've come to the end of the review for Exiled from the Sky Part 2. So proud of this level. It's definitely my greatest achievement in LittleBigPlanet, and of course, as promised, eventually I will be making a behind the scenes of both games, so you can get a little look into how I went about making things. And yeah, and I'll be talking about that and showing you a few unused assets. But Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe if you enjoy my work, and thank you for joining me. Bye.